and today's is also being recorded, so you can also go back and watch both of them. There's a lot of good information there. I am joined today by board members Josette Abruzzini and Leanne Oswald, and we'll be helping with some Q&A questions. And I'm going to turn it over to Josette in a second. I would just like to let you know that our panelist and our guest speaker today, Christina Wright, will be joining us again in 2026. So if you are not registered on our website, I encourage you to do so. We have events all year. We are wrapping up our year, 2025. It's been our biggest and best so far, our 5th year, and we have our last event on the 20th of November, which is the gathering. So you can find all that information on our events page. I encourage you to go to buston.org and sign up. Okay, and that's all for me. I'm going to give it over to Josette.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Christine. I'd like to welcome our presenter, Christina Wright. Christina is a professor of film studies at San Jose State University and De Anza College, sorry. She's an online faculty member at the Arts and Media of Wilmette Institute. She's also a trained social emotional arts facilitator through the Arts and Healing Institute initiative. Today, she'll be presenting evidence-based creative strategies that we can all use in managing our physical and mental wellness. Here you go, Christina. Welcome,
Thank you
Christina.
so much. First, I just wanted to welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining. It's just so exciting to be able to share this presentation, and really want to thank everyone at BUSNA and Leanne and Josette and Christine for inviting me to participate. This is really an honor for me. So just thank you so much for allowing me to be here. So I'm going to share my screen and my sound. And as Josette mentioned, the topic for today will be art as a tool for wellness. And before I kick it off, I actually want to sort of what they would call reading the room. I'm really curious where everyone is currently at with their relationship with the arts. So what I'm going to ask you to do is take a quick little poll. We've got 2 quick little polls. And in this first poll, I want you to share what are your current feelings towards creating art? That you either feel very confident creating art, you feel maybe a little so-so about creating art, or you feel like you have little to no confidence creating art. So I just sort of want to start out by just sort of, being honest about where we're at right now in this moment in the room. How confident are we even feeling about art when we hear the word art? So I'll give you a minute to take that poll. And then Christine, whenever we have the results, if you want to share the results with everyone, and then we can see what those percentages are.
I see. Oh, okay, it's up now. Yeah.
Okay, great. The second one that you'll be filling out is, how much time do you currently dedicate to engaging with art? Do you do art every single day? Do you do art every so once in a while? Or do you rarely or never do art?
And by art, of course, you mean any of the arts, not just visual arts or painting, but dancing, anything creative.
Absolutely.
Writing.
Yeah, any form of creative expression. How do you express yourself creatively? Any form of creative expression in my book counts as doing art. Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you, Josette.
Yeah. We define it how we want to.
Exactly.
Okay, I have some results if you can hear me. Okay, so the first question, I feel very confident creating art, got 13%. The I feel so about my ability got 50%. And the third answer got 38%.
Okay.
And then the second question, sorry. First response got 29%. So I do art every day, got 29%. The second response got 57%. And the third response got 14%. So you're
Okay.
leaning in the middle there.
All right. Well, thank you everyone so much for participating. Yeah, it is really helpful to just sort of see what people's current engagement is with the arts. And hopefully by the end of this webinar, we feel even more empowered, more excited to do art, and might be thinking about how we can incorporate art as part of our regular wellness practice. So that will be my goal by the end of the webinar, is to see if we can move those statistics up a little bit. So, where I wanted to start, I kind of have a two-part section with this webinar. The first part is that I really want to share with you evidence-based studies about the relationship between science and art. Because a lot of times when people talk about arts and they say, "Oh yeah, art feels good, it's nice, and it's this and that," but it's sort of still talked about in sort of a fluffy, hippy-dippy kind of way. What people don't actually understand is that there is scientific research that proves the efficacy of the arts for mental and physical health benefits. So it isn't just that the arts are nice and that the arts feel good. It's actually conducive to our physical and mental growth. And there's science that really backs that up. So I really want the opportunity to share that with you, share some of that evidence-based research, and then we'll take a little bit of a break. And after our break, I want to actually engage each of you in some art activities so that you can just get your feet wet with some really simple activities that you could even do at home on your own. Again, as this way of sort of increasing that percentage a little bit and giving yourself that permission, that opportunity to do some art. So that's kind of what we have planned for today. And starting with this scientific research, again, there's been a growing body of scientific evidence to prove the efficacy of the arts. A lot of times, people think that it's mostly focused on mental health benefits, but I've also got studies that again show the physical health benefits as well. And what's really interesting is that um, modern medicine, health practitioners, homeopaths, even MDs, a lot of doctors across the spectrum are really starting to also lean into this research and recognize the efficacy of the arts. And they're actually starting to prescribe the arts as a public health medicine. So when a doctor sits with you and talks with you about your treatment plan, they're not just saying, oh, here's a prescription for pharmaceuticals, or here's a prescription for this or that. They're also saying, here's a suggested toolbox of art supplies you might want to buy, or here's some arts therapy that you might want to do, or here's some art exercises you might want to do, whether that's movement or music or visual arts or expressive writing. So it's actually becoming prescribed as a form of medicine. And that's really powerful because, again, even those in the scientific background in medicine are really recognizing the power of the arts. So why does the arts have this power? Like, what is it about the arts in particular? And I think first and foremost is that it really provides an outlet for expression. Creative expression is a way for you to sort of unleash, for lack of a better phrase, anything that's happening inside of you that maybe you're still sort of sorting through. How do I feel about this? I'm working through it. I'm not really sure how I feel about this. I'm not really sure I even know the words to put it into. How do I verbalize or express what it is that I'm feeling, this emotion that I'm feeling, or even the mental thoughts that I'm having? How do I put that into words? It might be hard in other outlets to be able to sort of express that, but through the art, you're able to sort of, again, release it. So whether I'm painting a picture or I'm just dancing like no one's watching, I'm unleashing all of those emotions, all of that thought patterns that I'm having, and it's all manifesting itself in that particular art piece that I'm doing. And then what's really powerful is that when you connect with that art piece and serve as a witness to that art piece, then you get to ask it questions and you get to learn from it. So if I paint a picture, I might look at that picture and say, wow, I used a lot of blue. Why did I do that? Why did I use so much blue in this? What is that telling me? Or I noticed I drew a little heart down here in the bottom corner. What does that represent? Why did I do that? What do I think that means to me? So I can serve as a witness to connect with my art and learn about what are those feelings, thoughts, things that are coming up for me that maybe I've been having a hard time verbalizing. And then maybe that connection becomes stronger and I'm able to verbalize it better once I see what the art piece is telling me. And then once you've kind of gone through that process, then you then build your self-confidence, you build your empowerment, and you start realizing, wow, okay, I'm really learning a lot about myself. And the more and more we connect with ourselves, the more we learn about ourselves, the more empowered we feel again going out into the world. So art is just a very powerful tool in that regard. And then my goal now is again to really share what are some of these scientific evidences and also share some case studies with you. There's some really fascinating case studies that just absolutely blew me away. So wanted to share these with you. Focusing on specifically the mental health benefits of the arts. How does it help us mentally? One thing that it does is that it decreases feelings of loneliness. So while creating art tends to have more of an impact, even just simply experiencing the arts can also disarm loneliness. Studies show that visiting galleries, exhibitions, or museums every few months reduces the odds of loneliness by 26% compared to those who would never visit an art venue. And the odds were reduced even more to 33% for those attending a theater performance or a concert or an opera with that same level of frequency. So even just engaging with art, even if you're not creating it, even just being witness to art decreases feelings of loneliness. They also decrease depression and anxiety. There was a clinical trial conducted by researchers at Leiden University in the Netherlands, which showed that creative expression reduces a person's anxious feelings and that then allows them to focus on positive things and generate a realization of self expression. And that, of course, then leads to other therapeutic benefits like greater understanding of themselves, their personality, and also what it takes for them to heal. And art also improves brain cognition. There's increasing evidence in rehabilitation medicine that making art, or again, experiencing art, being witness to art, enhances brain function by impacting brainwave patterns, emotions, and your nervous system. And art can also raise your serotonin levels. So, in a study conducted at University College London, there were several participants who underwent brain scans while being shown images of paintings by major artists. And the study found that when people viewed the art they thought was the most beautiful, blood flow increased by as much as 10% to the region of the brain associated with pleasure, which is the equivalent to looking at someone that you love. And art accesses many of the advanced processes of the human brain, such as intuitive analysis, expressivity, and embodied cognition. So then looking at the physical health benefits, so many physical health benefits as well. First and foremost, art reduces your blood pressure because it puts you in a relaxed state of mind. Some investigations have explored how creative arts affects levels of cortisol, which is a stress hormone that strains the heart when chronically elevated. And investigators at Drexel University instructed a group of healthy adults to make art using collage materials, modeling clay, or using colored markers. And they found that salivary cortisol levels were reduced significantly in 75% of the participants after just 45 minutes of making art. And art activities have also been shown to improve heart rate variability, which is an important measure of heart health. And other research indicates that artistic expression with certain forms of media may elevate HRV to a heart healthy level. Art also relieves stress. Focusing on an art project can really distract you from stressful worries, giving your conscious mind a break from stressful thoughts and just allowing your brain and your body to rest. Then, when you do think about your stressors again, your mind is calmer and better prepared to deal with those stressors. People who participate in creative expression through art often talk about being in the zone. I'm in the zone. And when you're completely engaged in creating art, your mind enters a meditation like state, which allows your thoughts to flow and you release tension and stress in your body. And also, being in the zone creates a sense of well being that helps you focus on your strengths instead of your stress. This was also a big one for me, that art fights inflammation. So, a number of recent studies have shown that experiencing awe through art can boost positive emotions and also reduce our levels of pro inflammatory cytokines, which are proteins that signal the immune system to work harder. So, neurobiologists believe that when these cytokines signal the brain to produce more inflammatory molecules, they also block or decrease the production of key hormones and neurotransmitters, including serotonin and dopamine, that regulate our moods, our sleep, our memory, and our appetite. So, huge benefits of the arts to fight inflammation. And then the arts also, in turn, bolster our immune system because you're lowering the levels of chemicals that cause inflammation, for example, that can trigger diabetes or heart attacks or other illnesses. And instead, your immune system is then being boosted. So these are just some, again, a snapshot. I mean, there's so much scientific research, and I really just, gave you one example of a study, in each area, but there's so much research, so many studies that show the power of these arts. And what I wanted to share now is a little bit more about what your menu of art options can be, and then what each of these specific art modalities offers, because they all offer, again, that cohesive, list of mental and physical health benefits, but also each one offers something unique in particular as well. So I wanted to share that. Um, Going back to this idea of art for cathartic release, not being able to find the words to be able to share to someone, again, by engaging in visual arts, individuals who are unable to communicate their feelings verbally might be able to do so in a drawing or a painting or sculpture, something that they physically create. Again, you stand witness to it, you look at it, you ask it questions, you think about the process that you use to create that art. And then you start learning more about, yeah, I think I'm feeling really frazzled right now. And here's where I see that in my picture. That little scribble over there. Yeah, I think that's sort of telling me I'm a little bit frazzled in the moment. So you learn about where you're at in the moment. Where's my heart? Where's my mind? Where's my body in this moment? And I see that through my art piece. And then there's music. I'm sure we've all experienced the power of music. I'm sure everyone listens to some type of genre of music that they enjoy. And what's interesting about music is that they're finding that that particular art modality is really helpful for regulating and moderating pain. In one study, for example, 30 participants underwent three different conditions. Participants were either sitting in silence, listening to white noise, or listening to their preferred music. And compared with the noise and silence conditions, participants in the music condition reported lower ratings of pain and overall feelings of unpleasantness. So music really helps to decrease pain. And what's interesting is a lot of, again, health practitioners are subscribing music for pain management. My aunt underwent surgery with Kaiser a few years ago, and she was, part of her recovery therapy was to do work at a pain management clinic, and music was one of the things that they prescribed for her as part of her healing. There's also creative movement. And when we say creative movement, we don't just mean dance, but any sort of creative way that you're just physically moving your body. So, movement based creative expression focuses on nonverbal, primarily physical forms of expression. And through movement of your mind and body in a creative way, stress and anxiety can then be physically relieved. There was one unique study that involved the use of theater that showed that after 4 weeks of acting instruction, participants exhibited significantly greater gains of cognitive and psychological well being, specifically word and listening recall, problem solving, self esteem, and psychological well being. So, just all of that just from learning how to be an actor on the stage. And then in a different study, Tai Chi exercise also showed improvement health status. So anything from theater to the martial arts to just, again, dancing like no one's watching has tremendous health benefits. And then there's expressive writing. How many of us ever kept a diary once in our life, or maybe journaled thoughts or feelings that we had inside of us, and experienced that cathartic release of being able to just write it down, get it out, right, onto pen and paper. Deep disclosure through expressive writing improves mood, objective and subjective health, and just the overall ability to function well. And studies show that those who write about painful experiences that they're having are then confronting their trauma and end up reporting more positive moods and fewer illnesses as a result of writing it down. So, one study, for example, it was a joint study by psychologists who studied three working professionals who had recently been laid off from their jobs, and they were assigned to write their deepest thoughts and feelings about being laid off and about how their lives, personal and professional, had been affected by that. And after 5 consecutive days of 30-minute writing sessions, researchers started tracking the employment status of these 63 individuals and found that participants who wrote about losing their jobs were much more likely to find new ones in the months following the study. So again, going back to that empowerment stage, they felt empowered letting that go. They then felt empowered to then go and find new jobs. Another study done by the State University of New York assigned patients with asthma and rheumatoid arthritis to write about the most stressful events in their lives. 4 months later, the asthma patients showed improvements in lung function, and the arthritis patients showed a reduction in disease severity. And then there's media arts, which is what I do for a living, and I'm biased because I love everything about it, and I want to tell you everything about it, but I will make it brief. Um, what I love about media arts, and particularly film in the movies, is that we have an opportunity through shared connection with the characters on the screen to learn a lot about ourselves. How often have we seen a movie where a character is in some predicament or some situation, and it may not be the exact situation that we have found ourselves in, but we might find some commonalities in that. We might see some similarities. And what we know about narrative storytelling is that usually at the beginning of every movie, your main protagonist, who's your main character, has some sort of goal that they're trying to achieve by the end of the film. And because nothing in life is ever achieved easily, they hit a lot of stumbling blocks, a lot of obstacles trying to achieve their goal. And then by the end of the film, they either achieve it or they don't achieve it. In a feel good story, they usually achieve it. But whether they achieve their goal or not, there's life lessons that they've learned. There's growth, there's maturity, there's deeper understanding as a result of going through that striving that they were trying to achieve. And so when we see that, it sort of serves as like a fishbowl where we get to sit back and we get to watch the storytelling take place. And again, we might find comparable similarities in a character of like, yeah, I know what it's like to strive for a goal and constantly stumble and have to get back up again. I know what that feels like. And then you see that person empowered on the screen, and then you feel empowered as well. So there's some really great benefits to sort of sitting back and watching narrative storytelling, where you see sort of, parts of your life sort of being laid out in that story. And then you find that empowerment through the character's journey. And then the final art I wanted to talk about is what we would call collaborative art, which is really getting community members to create art together. So, collaborative art creates community identity, which is the overarching values and attitudes and beliefs among a group of people who have a shared responsibility to one another, a mutual tradition or history, and a relationship built around a specific neighborhood or interest. So, collaborative art enhances community life by providing the opportunity for individuals to gain an appreciation for each other and build close knit relationships, which in turn augments feelings of belonging. In some cases, collaborative art may also provide a platform for community members to share their culture and value with others, maybe promoting a call to action for what they want to see in their neighborhood or society. So there's a lot of power in doing art for yourself on the individual level, and then also gathering with others and doing art collectively with members of your community. So to share before we break for questions is a tutorial, and this comes from the Foundation for Arts and Healing, which is one of the leading organizations in this work of the relationship between science and creativity. And in this particular case study, we have two individuals who are being interviewed about their experience creating art. And it's a very powerful demonstration to sort of hear that in action.
Since the beginning of time, art and the creative energy behind it has captured our imagination, energized us, comforted us, and inspired us. Creative expression has an undeniable power, providing insight into what it means to be human. Is there something about creativity, how we engage with it and share it with others, that can actually improve our health? Can art be medicine?
There's never been a culture without art, never been a culture without poetry, never been a culture without music. They must be delivering something to us that we really need for our psyches.
You think back to those days and all the challenges that existed just to survive and have food, but they still took time for art, so obviously it had some value for them. And that value clearly had something to do with health. We've forgotten the original stuff that worked quite well before we had all the sort of medications and other sort of technologies for treatment.
In very traumatic illnesses, in very traumatic situations like war, everyone is changed.
I lost 3 Marines due to IEDs. I lost several of my friends on one deployment.
When I was 16 years old, I had a heart transplant. I was in the hospital for 3 months.
And I found it odd that each time I did something with art therapy, I felt better because there was something in me that was dying to get out. And through art, I was able to express it.
I remember writing about this. I remember writing to my heart. I remember asking it to please work with me. I remember really almost in letter form, just saying, I know that this environment isn't natural for you. I know that you are in a foreign place, but so am I. And together we can find a home.
It's essential to add other components than the traditional medical modalities. Anything from the use of artwork, the use of light, the use of drama, the use of storytelling, and the engagement of the patients and the patients' families in an art experience to help them have the optimal care that they deserve.
I really believe that in the next few years we will have some detailed answers as to what works.
We are learning that storytelling and arts and emotional health is just as fundamental to well-being as your physical health.
And just thinking about it, talking about it, writing it down, expressing it obliquely, expressing it directly, that can help.
I would have never talked about what this meant, but I was able to express it through something that everybody could see what it was and see what it meant. But it wasn't me. I was shielded in some ways. I was protected. I was able to express it in a way that was safe for me.
Even though people might think that art is not the same as medicine, it was my medicine, and I think that without it, I just would have still been sick.
Through simple things, able to create something that makes it okay to feel the way I feel and help take that burden away.
Medicine has made great strides in the past 100 years. It's now time to go one step further by incorporating artistic expression into the ways we provide health and healing. All will stand to benefit.
Hopefully that leaves us with some inspiration about the power of the arts. And I thought this would be a great place to pause for a moment to see if anyone had any questions, either about some of these studies or any questions around how to use art at home, or just anything that's coming up for anyone. Do we have any questions in the question queue?
I don't see any.
All right.